From that which one labors in, one should also be able to be benefited. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4, Torah portion Shophtim. Let's begin today by reading from Devarim, or Deuteronomy, chapter number 18, the first couple of verses. The priest, the Levites, all of the tribe of Levi have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They are to eat the offerings of Yahweh made by fire and his inheritance. But among his brothers, Levi has no inheritance. Yahweh is his inheritance, as he has spoken to him. So again, as initially stated in this particular video, what you labor in, from that you should also be able to benefit. In Bereshit, Genesis chapter number 2, as we read verses 15 and 16, the word says, "And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, Eat of every tree of the garden." Adam and Chava, they labored in the garden, they tended to the plants, to the vegetation, and then from that, they were able then to receive their sustenance, their food supply. When it came to the flood, and the day of Noah, Noah built the ark, and Yah brought 2 of all creatures inside the ark. Of the clean, he brought in 7 pairs. And Noah spent a year laboring among the animal kingdom. He had to tend to their needs on a daily basis. So then, when the flood was over, Yah says to Noah in Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 9, verse 3, "Every creeping creature that lives is food for you. I have given you all as I gave the green plants." Now Noah had an understanding of what food was clean and unclean. The Father had already determined that. The clean animals, he brought in 7 pair. So Noah also then, understanding what is clean and unclean, from the clean animals he was able to present offerings on an altar as thanksgiving for his survival through the worldwide judgment and flood. Noah, from that time to our day, we are permitted to eat meat from the animal kingdom, provided that it falls within the boundaries the Father has stipulated for us. We must only ingest that which is clean. So Adam and Chava, they worked in the garden, and from the garden they were able to be benefited and to eat. Noah worked among the animals, and from the animals then he is benefited and able to eat. The scripture even goes so far as to say in Devarim 25 and verse 4 that the ox that treads out the grain is not to be muzzled. That would be preventing him from eating that which he labors among. If Yah is concerned about an ox being able to eat grain that he is threshing, that he is turning the grinding wheel for, how much more is he concerned about you? From the work that you do, regardless of what skill set that you employ, what your calling and occupation might be, from that you are expecting a benefit. None of us wants to go to a job and labor for hours a day, sometimes in very negative situations and environments, to come home with nothing. The Torah describes the situation for us. When a man labors, that day you're supposed to give him his wages. You don't send home a man, even for one day, empty-handed. Of course, we have thought better about this and said, we'll pay you at the end of the week or 2 weeks or at the end of the month, whatever the pay scale and situation is. But first, we're going to take all of the taxes out, and then we're going to take away your benefit monies and etc. Sometimes we do feel like I have worked hard and got nothing. Rav Shaul teaches us in 2 Corinthians chapter number 9 that from ministering the word, one should also expect some sort of recompense, some system of benefit. From this, the denominational system has achieved a mindset that says if a pastor is working full-time as a pastor, if an evangelist travels and speaks, and that is his occupation, then from that he should be able to expect some sense of recompense, salary, compensation. And I agree with that. I pastored for a long number of years, and it was hard work. It's still hard work. It's time consuming. It's overwhelming mentally, spiritually, sometimes even physically. And yet there are those that did, as I have had to do on occasion, that not only pastor a church, but take on a full-time job on the side because the church is small. The congregation doesn't have the ability to support but to such a small level. Rather than let my wife and children go hungry, I had to go find another job. So I'm working 2 full-time jobs. Imagine then the angst that one would feel in such given situations when a, let's say, well-intentioned and encouraging family member would say, "Why don't you get a real job?" I do have a real job, and it's more demanding than anything you can imagine. Matter of fact, I've got 2 of them. Thankfully, the Father has situated us at this point to where I can do full-time ministry from here in my office, plus the ministry that we offer in our local congregation, plus traveling opportunities that come on occasion. And in the back of my mind is music that needs to be written and books that need to be written. I got plenty to do. From that, the Father has situated that I can earn a living. In addition to that, my wife and I have a private business or a independent business that we seek to operate out of our home as well. Put it all together and the lights are on, food's in the refrigerator, and there's fuel in our automobiles. And for that, we're very thankful. But the principle here is that the priests do not have any other inheritance. Now, when they served at the altars, which they did by course, not every priest served all the time. There were 2 set apart times for them during the year where they would travel from their priestly cities, the cities of refuge, and come and serve at the altar and in the tent, in the courts of the Mishkan. From that service, then, they would receive hides from the animal and meats from the sacrifices. And from those, then, they could tan hides and sell them. They could feed family with the meat. But again, that was 2 weeks or 2 sessions out of the year. They had small areas outside of their cities of refuge where they could plant. But they needed some other sense of income. So they became craftsmen. And then they would set up schools where they would teach the Torah. They would instruct young student priests in their duties. And they would teach the clean and the unclean. In the act of teaching, then, they should receive some sense, a reward, a benefit, of compensation. So we go then to 1 Peter chapter number 2 and verse 9, where he looks at us and says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood." From that, we have sometimes had the audacity to say, well, we're a royal priesthood. And since Messiah's death and burial and resurrection is done away with the Torah, and the Levitical priests no longer have any right to existence, they've all been done away with. That altar is now defunct and it will never be raised up again. They failed to read the whole of the word. Whatever priestly role that you and I have, it is under the Melchizedek high priesthood of Yeshua the Messiah. There is no offering for us to offer other than to end the prayer, stand at the altar in Messiah Yeshua, point at his blood that is still wet on that altar, and cry out for mercy and for compassion and for deliverance and for healing for Yah's people. It is an intercessory role. We're not bringing animals. We're pointing to the blood of Messiah that has already been shed. What you and I do in the spirit realm, in prayer and through intercession, does not replace anything that the Levitical priesthood is called to here on the earth. Matter of fact, wherever there is a deposit of the Father's presence and glory, it is their role alone to preside over it. And from that, they should be rewarded and compensated. We'll talk more about these things tomorrow, and until then, shalom.